Okay.
But the larger portion of the blame goes to the government.
Right.
Then it goes to the middlemen that are having so much access to the farms land, to the farm station, who are now storing food away to create artificial scarcity. But as I earlier said, the blame goes to everybody. When I mean everybody, when we say government, we mean everybody is in government. All of us are in government. But we know that literally not everybody is in government. Some people are elected, some people are represented, and some people are employed. So every one of us have a relation, a friend, a colleague that is in government. So the blame goes to everybody. But the larger portion of it goes to the government, where we also, a portion of it goes to middlemen who are storing the food away. Then, as I earlier pointed out, the blame goes to everybody. But the other part of your question is that what is the way forward? But let us first, analyze the challenge. What leads us to this point that we'll be having a much of a high food prices?
Yeah.
Because I've been able to, analyze and do my findings. Not that we have food scarcity. No.
Oh, we don't have food scarcity?
No, we don't have food scarcity.
Okay.
We don't have food scarcity. There is no pepper scarcity. There is no tomato scarcity. They are all available. The challenge boils down from the policy of the government, and the policy of the government are in three ways: monetary policy, fiscal policy, as well as the trade policy. Now, the monetary policy from the central bank talks about how people borrow money, how money flow. They're talking about the MPC, MPR rate they are bringing out in a way of to challenge this inflation, so that farmers cannot access loans, because for a very long time now, no farmers in Nigeria go to commercial banks to go and collect loans. It's only money they want to get to the government. That's the government to do so many interventions. Then the fiscal policy talks about the soft infrastructure make available, as well as the hard infrastructure make available by the government. Now, on the hard infrastructure, talk about roads, talk about transport, talk about security, talk about a network of infrastructure for farmers and the rest of them. Then the soft one talk about the regulation, the policy regulation of government in the agricultural sector, or what we call the food supply chain production sector. So then the trade policy talks about how government have been able to map out ways to ensure that our trade policy works, whereby we don't rely on food importation and we don't rely on third party to be able to supply us food. So by the time you look at these three angles I've made mention, you discover that the government takes the larger portion of the blame, because their policy sometimes doesn't work effectively as expected. Although the objective may be very beautiful on paper, but the implementation is a challenge. Then there could also be lack of convergence between government policy on paper and the practicality of government paper or government policy in reality. Then there could also be conflict of interest in terms of how this government policy works. And that conflict of interest is what majorly affects government policy most times. You made mention of farmers being escorted by security men to the farms. Ask me, how many of those farmers have been escorted? Because the interest of the elite is to have more policemen, more security details, following them up and down, at the detriment of farmers that need security details following them to farms. You ask me, how many policemen, how many soldiers, how many civil defense are following those farmers to farms? There are very few. But check out soldiers, police are following governors, following house of reps, following senators, following commissioners, following ministers, following DG up and down. They are much in number than the ones that are being given to farmers to go and escort farmers to farm. So you see that there is conflict of interest in that regard. The same thing also happens to other policies of government. Take, for instance, government just recently. Well, let's look at recent policies of government in the food supply chain production, whereby government intend to put fertilizer across, and 69 trucks of fertilizer was released last month, June, across the state. I know you follow that story up. Now, those 69 trucks that were released, out of the 2,700 trucks they are planning to release out. Now, you ask me, have those fertilizers gotten to the right farmers? Are they being stored away in far places? Are the governors that will receive those fertilizers, are they waiting for political election period to come before they begin to distribute those fertilizers? And most times when you see government fertilizer, there's an inscription on it, not for sale. But you see find some of these fertilizer in retail shop, they can even be badged. So conflict of interest affects mostly government policy in Nigeria, and there's no convergence between policy implementation and the reality of that policy in the field. So those are the challenges so far that we can quickly summarize. But
Right.
we have much of the challenges in the course of our discussion.
But let's look at the state of the nation when it comes to.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at the state of the nation when it comes to food inflation. It has been pegged at 40.01% as of March 2024. Even the poverty rate has also gone so high. Multidimensional poverty has gone even beyond 133 million people. Trust me, the 133 million people was as of 2023, right? As of 2023 as well, the poverty rate was about 38.9%. The high risk of hunger. 25 million people, are at high risk of hunger, and inflation index, as it stands right now, is 34.19%. 34.19%, as it stands in June of 2024. Now, when you look at this and put all of these together, and you look at the past antecedents or the things that we have done in the past to salvage, the situation, where would you say that critically we missed it? Where did we miss it?
It is quite interesting. We missed it in every angle of our policy, from the policy formulation to policy deployment, and well as policy implementation. There is this cyclical rate where policy is being brought up. That we talk about policy formulation, policy deployment as implementation. The cycle of it, we missed it. It's regrettable. We need to say it. It's quite shameful for some of us who are critical economists. There are different economists. Critical economists who normally look at policy of government from the critical angle.
Yeah.
Even though the objective of government policy may be very laudable, may be very very interesting, may have a goal target that we definitely want to address challenges in the society. But when we look at it critically, you ask yourself, is this policy meant for the poor or is it meant for the elite? And sadly, most times when government deploy policy or when they formulate policy, their target is the poor. But when it comes to the practicality of the policy, you discover that the target and the objective of the policy is not addressing the challenge of the poor. It's only just meeting the needs of the elite in society. So we missed it when we formulate policy and we say we want to address poverty. But at the end of the day, we don't address poverty with the policy. We just create opportunity for certain individuals to accumulate more wealth for themselves in society. So from all you have said, from all I'm trying to analyze from the critical perspective of economy, particularly using the lens of political economy to look at it, government policy, in a way, are laudable, are interesting, are very, very good, but they lack the onions, they lack the means to really address the challenge of the people, because at the end of the day, the practicality of the policy is discovered that at implementation stage, the bureaucratic nature of government will set in, the elite interest will set in, and other elements, other sabotaging elements in the society will set in, and before they rub off the good part of the policy, which is supposed to address the challenge that we are facing, will rub it off and will be for just for the few people in our society.
So what could
we are
be
talking
done?
About food. Let me just quickly land this.
Okay.
We are talking about food, high cost of food
Exactly.
in Nigeria.
The prices.
Since 1999. Since 1999, different successive governments have deployed all manner of food production policy. We can begin to name them, from the need policy of Obasanjo to the 7-point agenda of Yoaja, to the transformation agenda of Goodluck Jonathan, to the economic recovery growth plan of the APC that Buhari took off what they call the anchor borrower to be able to provide food sufficiency for Nigeria through giving them loans, and now to the Tinubu government trying as much as possible to spend billions upon billions of naira. And for the record, since Tinubu entered government in May 29, to date, he has spent over 309 billion in the agricultural sector of Nigeria. And you see, ask yourself, how are we having these challenges of food crisis in Nigeria? How are we having the challenge of high cost of food in Nigeria? So that's to summarily answer the question that in as much as government have in mind to address poverty, the problem still lies that the policy in practice will not address poverty because conflict of interest, lack of convergence on the part of people that are going to implement the policy create a lot of gaps in the policy.
So
which does not address
I'm glad you mentioned the people that would implement the policy, because I mean, when we put policies down, no matter how beautiful the policies may be, if the policies will not implement themselves, they will not execute themselves, there's still people who would have to be fixed, to carry the idea, the good thoughts, the good design of that policy, and allow it to reach out to the people. So could we say that the people that we have put out there to implement the policy are the problem? Is that really where the problem is, or is it in the policy framework itself?
No. In summary, I said something. I told you that. In summary, I told you that the conflict of interest about policy is where we normally have challenges. On paper, the policy target the poor. The policy want to address high cost of food increase in Nigeria. But ask me, do the elite, the people in government, do they really want to address the high cost of food in the country? Do they really want to address it? My organization, Poleco Analytics, did a press release last week, and we raised the concern that it is not strategic to rely on food importation for the next 6 months. It is not strategic, even though it's a short to medium-term action of government or policy of government to address food in price. But it has a way of causing more problems on the monetary side.
In what way?
And what is that? On the monetary side. Now, people who are going to be importing food into the country will be looking for dollar. They will put more pressure on the naira exchange rate. Then CBN will be made to be scattering up and down looking for dollar to give to the importer. Then when the importer comes in and told us that he has already bought dollar at 1,000 this, 1,000 that there is no way for him to reduce the price of his food price. So how does that work? So it is not strategic, though we said government going into it may not help us on the long run, but they just want to do it so that to reduce the price of food, but it will not reduce the price of
food.
So there are other factors. Mm-hmm. There are other factors that are leading to the high cost of food.
Okay.
So government just looking at one way to address it.
So what can we say are these factors, that is, I mean, because Nigerians are tired. I mean, every time we get calls coming through saying, hey, reduce the food prices, some would say there is a need for the price regulatory control to step up and do their jobs, and different versions, different sides to it. So what do you think these factors may be, and how can we ameliorate it so that we can allow for the value of purchase for Nigerians, and of course the food that you say, according to you, that we are not having a crisis. What in the true sense of the word is more more artificial.
The issue is this: the government know what to do. If you see, I said something earlier when we started this. I said a critical look at government policy in objective, in goals, are laudable, are effort-driven policy. They really want to in the paper, but in practice, they don't want to. So it all boils down to the implementation. A critical sample of why government has failed in this regard is this. There are about 3 agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security that are very critical to food production in Nigeria. The Nigerian Food Storage Agencies, the National Agricultural Land Development Agency, as well as other agencies that are quite very, very good. When I get the names, I'll call it out for us to know.
Right.
But I mentioned to the storage facilities across the country, it's an agency where we store food. The Nigerian Agricultural Land Development Agency. This agency now that was created solely that government will use the platform of estate farming. Estate farming. Mm-hmm. Or you acquire land